It feels like the world turned upside down overnight. Reports of airstrikes and escalating violence between Iran and its neighbors hit just as we were getting used to the idea of a shaky peace.
It's wild. When I first saw the headlines this Saturday morning, I had to triple-check the date. I'm here with you today not just to talk about what happened, but to break down how this conflict flared up so quickly and what it actually means for the rest of us.
We'll dive into the breaking news from the front lines, explore the roots of this simmering tension, examine the international response, and look at what's likely coming next. By the end, you'll have a clear picture, no jargon, just the facts and context you need.
So, let's jump straight into the heart of today's crisis, how it started, what's unfolding right now, and why this Saturday will be remembered for a long time to come.
What really caught my attention was just how sudden the military action was. Dozens of missiles launched before dawn. Why did it ignite now, after months of uneasy calm?
It's that sense of unpredictability. According to initial reports, the attacks were triggered by a string of border incidents and heated rhetoric throughout March. Small clashes piled up, making tensions unbearable, then one miscalculation set everything off.
I keep thinking about the role of social media in this. Videos of explosions and chaos were trending worldwide within an hour of the first blasts. People on the ground were live streaming suddenly. The whole world was watching in real time.
That's a great point. The speed of information, both accurate and misleading, totally changed how governments had to react. It forced political leaders into the spotlight before anyone had all the facts.
Things got messy fast. Iran is obviously at the center, but there's a whole network of regional players. Israel, Saudi Arabia, and U.S. forces on alert. Can you help clarify who's involved and why?
Definitely. Iran's actions were met almost immediately by Israeli air defenses, and Saudi officials called for an emergency summit within hours. Meanwhile, the U.S. has naval forces in the Gulf, officially in a defensive posture, but ready to intervene if needed.
What's wild is how quickly old rivalries resurface. Long-standing fears, mistrust, alliances, they all came roaring back. Smaller nations, like Jordan and the UAE, suddenly had to pick sides or call for restraint, sometimes both in the same statement.
And it's not just governments. Regional militias, cyber groups, and civilian populations are all part of the equation. For the average person in the region, it's a mix of fear, confusion, and unfortunately familiarity with disruption.
The immediate international reaction was fascinating to watch. Countries like Russia and China issued carefully worded statements, while Europe pushed for urgent de-escalation. But I also saw the UN calling emergency meetings all afternoon.
What struck me is the split between public statements and private diplomacy. On the surface, everyone is calling for peace, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of pressure on Iran, Israel, and the US to avoid triggering an even wider war.
Have you noticed how economic markets responded? Oil prices spiked, global stocks dipped, and everyone's suddenly talking about energy security again. It's as if the world's nerves are frayed, waiting for the next development.
Absolutely. The global ripple effects are immediate, and that level of uncertainty puts pressure on leaders to act sometimes before they're ready.
One thing that really brings the conflict home are the stories coming in from civilians. I read about families sheltering in Tehran and Tel Aviv, people scrambling to find safe places as sirens wailed.
Those personal accounts are powerful. I saw a clip of a teacher in Isfahan trying to keep her students calm during an air raid. There's a real sense of resilience, but also exhaustion. People are tired of living in fear, even as they do what they must to get by.
You can almost feel the tension in those videos, neighbors checking on each other, volunteers rushing to help the wounded. It's a stark reminder that behind the headlines, it's ordinary lives being turned upside down.
That's what makes this so heartbreaking. Wars like this aren't just about governments or armies, they're about families, communities, and the dreams people are desperately trying to hold on to.
After a day like today, it's hard to predict what's next. There's talk of more strikes, but also hints that diplomatic back channels are working overtime. Do you see any chance for a quick resolution?
It's tough to feel optimistic, but there are a few signs of hope. Some regional leaders are pushing hard for ceasefire negotiations, and the international community is united in urging restraint. Still, the risk of miscalculation remains high. No one wants this to spiral further.
It almost feels like a race between escalation and diplomacy. The next 48 hours will probably set the tone for what's to come. I just hope cooler heads prevail, because the stakes couldn't be higher for people across the region.
And even for those of us watching from afar, what happens in the Middle East ripples out politically, economically, and emotionally. Everyone has a stake in what comes next.
Let's wrap up with a quick recap. First, today's violence didn't come out of nowhere. Months of tension and missteps built up until something snapped.
Second, the speed of information, especially through social media, meant the world was watching and reacting instantly, for better and worse.
Third, the human toll is front and center. Behind every headline are families coping with fear and uncertainty, showing real courage, even in chaos.
If you're looking for a way to help, start by staying informed, seek out credible sources, amplify voices from the region, and support humanitarian organizations working on the ground. Even from afar, your awareness and action matter.
Thanks for joining us as we broke down another turbulent chapter in world events. We'll keep tracking the story and bring you updates as they unfold. Take care, everyone.